This video is brought to you by Lark. This is my current home studio desk setup. It's my first almost all-white setup that is big enough for what matters. We have 16 items to go through, all of which will be linked in the description below, so let's not waste any time and get right to it. If you've seen some of my previous setups, you might be familiar with the autonomous desk. I actually have two, and I made a mishmash, which is a very delicious meal, by the way, between the two. I used the black legs with the white tabletop and the fantastic metal cable tray that Autonomous sent over last time. A new addition to the desk are the set of wheels, which I'll put a link below for those who are wondering about the size and thread. I've been using these desks for a long time, and when something is well done, there's really nothing that can go wrong or make you look for another solution. At most, if you get bored, you can simply swap the tabletop and boom, a panda black and white setup. I recently switched my speakers to the glossy white Kanto YU4s. These are powered speakers that feature 4-inch drivers and 1-inch dome tweeters. These speakers also have phono preamp, which is great if you're into vinyl, as well as the ability to connect to them via Bluetooth, which I find no need for at this time. On the desk right next to one of the speakers, I always keep my water bottle by Lark. Lark is the first self-cleaning water bottle that uses pure Vis technology to eliminate up to 99% of biocontaminants such as E. coli. The bottle takes only 1 hour to charge and can keep the water fresh tasting and free of bacteria for a month before the next charge. Since it is a self-cleaning bottle, it doesn't require constant scrubbing to keep the water tasting great. It works automatically by self-cleaning every 2 hours. Refreshing the water can also happen manually by triggering the button on the top, something that I do when I come back to the studio the next day. It is an insulated bottle that can keep the water cool for 24 hours and hot for 12. It comes in two sizes, 500 and 740 milliliters, and in a range of high-quality colorful finishes for any taste and setup. Stay hydrated and be sustainable by clicking on the first link in the description below and grabbing the Lark bottle. Next to the opposite speaker, I keep the Nomad Base 1 Max charger. This charger is made for MagSafe. It is extremely high quality and it weighs a ton, and by a ton I mean 2 pounds. The reason for the weight is to stay anchored when lifting or placing the Apple Watch and the iPhone. It provides 15 watts of MagSafe power while the watch charges at 5 watts. This is a premium and classy looking product that will remain timeless in design no matter how old it gets. I adore how it matches the overall aesthetics of the desk setup, and keep in mind that it also comes in 2 colors, black and white. The 16-inch M1 Max MacBook Pro is the brains of the operation. I love this laptop for many reasons. My config is the M1 Max with 32GB of unified memory and maxed out graphics. I also have a 2TB SSD. This new generation of Pro machines is a game changer for people like me. It's an ultra-fast and responsive laptop that helps me feed the family and saves me time that I can spend with my kids. I honestly can't ask for more. I'll leave my full review at the end of this video if you're interested. The M1 Max is aided by the 12.9-inch M1 iPad Pro. I recently rediscovered the iPad, especially when I purchased the Magic Keyboard in white, but that's a topic for another video. One of the quickest reasons for upgrading the iPad Pro to the unreleased iPad OS 16 was something called reference mode. When I turn that on, the iPad enters color critical mode, that is to be used in controlled viewing environments, or in other words, I get to use the iPad as the ultimate and most accurate viewfinder when working on a graphic project or most often a video. I will be talking a lot about iPad OS 16 and the new Apple software versions very soon, so subscribe to the channel and click on the bell icon. I also use the iPad as an extension to my Mac thanks to Sidecar and Universal Control. My MacBook stays docked most of the time and I unplug it when I have to edit a video from another location. The rest of the time, I just grab the iPad. The monitor that I'm currently using is the newly released Samsung M8. I plan on doing a dedicated video on it very soon, but in a nutshell, this monitor exists in a class of its own. Its only real competitor is its old version of the same display. This is a monitor that is also a smart TV. It's 4K 32 inches and it's a VA panel. The fact that it's a VA panel means that you can expect fantastic view angles, but on the other side, the blacks on the VA panel are much better than on an IPS. When sitting directly in front of it, especially after a proper calibration, I can't complain. Now I know people will be asking, and yes, I've been using it, and I will keep on using the M8 for graphic and video work, at least until my studio display arrives. I do have thoughts, however, about this monitor, so stay tuned for that. One big complaint about it is the lack of a stereo jack on the back. Now, I assume it was for thinness reasons, but to me it's very important. For that same reason, and also in the need of a USB-A port, I'm resorting to a first-gen OWC travel dock, which I have hung on the back of the display. The travel dock is not the perfect solution, but it can be used as a secondary SD card reader, but you know, I haven't found a need for that yet. The side SD card slot on a laptop is fast and capable enough for my needs. So far I have two problems that I need to address. The first is that I'd like to raise the monitor by about 3 inches so that the iPad doesn't block the bottom part of the display, which I might do at the time of the recording of this video via the IKEA 11 doohickey. And the second thing I need to address is to find a better hub that I can use on the back. Moving on to peripherals. I just found the perfect trifecta, which I'm sure I'll stick with for a while. The mouse that I recently unboxed is the Logitech MX Master 3S. This updated version of the legendary MX Master 3 features the same fantastic ergonomic profile and stance, but a much quicker sensor. Another feature that I appreciate a lot is the extremely quiet buttons. I'm not sure if white came only with the 3S, but I certainly love how it matches the setup. To help the mouse, I'm also using the latest generation Magic Trackpad, also in white. The large glass surface area is ideal for swiping between desktops or grabbing and holding stuff while navigating a folder with the mouse. This double cursor input method is not very common, and I've found many people question it, but I find it extremely productive for my workflow. The keyboard that made me ditch my favorite mechanical keychron keyboard is the latest generation Magic Keyboard. The only reason for my betrayal is the inclusion of Touch ID. I've been using exclusively Apple laptops for over a decade, and as a clamshell desk user, I've been dreaming of a biometric keyboard. Even if the Magic Keyboard is not the best or most satisfying keyboard out there, the inclusion of Touch ID is worth it for me. I do hate the globe button on the bottom left, however, so I might have to resort to finding a way to remap it. All the peripherals are comfortably contrasting on the Enough mousepad. I am extremely proud to show you this pad since this is my very first physical product. It is 40 by 80 centimeters in size, ideal for most desks without interfering with your monitor legs. As a desk pad person myself, I've always hated when I have to tuck the pad under the front portion of my monitor legs. This is the very first prototype of the pad that I've been using for over 6 months now, and as you can see, it looks just as good. I'll put a link to the pad below, which is a very limited drop by the way, so if you're interested and it runs out by any chance, let me know on Twitter and I'll create a waiting list for the second drop. Since I can't use the light bar for my previous setup because of the Samsung M8 webcam on top, I placed a Xiaomi Desk Lamp Pro on the side, which I'm also using as a headphone stand and charger. The desk lamp was a gift for my birthday. It is a minimal looking lamp that uses HomeKit, which is always something that I'm after, and thank you guys. Hey Siri, turn on the desk light. I can control the intensity and the temperature of the light via the control knob, or the app, of course, and with one command I can turn on and off the entire setup. Hanging on the edge of the lamp, I have the AirPods Max. I use the Max exclusively for video editing since they have almost no input lag, and I can be sure that my levels and presets are as good as they can be. The AirPods Max are noise cancelling beasts, by the way, so when I turn noise cancellation on, I can space out like no problem. Finally, I have the Elgato Stream Deck. I use it for two primary reasons. First reason is to control all the HomeKit accessories around the studio. I have many lights that I want to have full control over when shooting, and the quickest way to do that is via the deck. Otherwise, I will get old if I have to wait for Siri to turn off just the 8 that are on the ceiling. Another reason to use the deck is for Mac OS and app shortcuts. For example, I use it with Final Cut Pro, which is my video editing software, to trigger some quick shortcuts. The chair that I've been using is the Herman Miller Embody. 5 years later, this chair still looks great despite my abuse. It offers plenty of adjustments, and it is a chair that keeps the body engaged. And what I mean by that is that you can't really rest in the sense of completely relaxing your body on a couch, for example. The chair helps you sit and work while not allowing you to melt down physically. It is an expensive chair, but 5 years later, I always come back to it and it looks as good as it was, and it doesn't creak or squeak or anything of that sort. Some nicks and knacks on the desk might be the SD cards that I'm using and maybe something to write on. The Nomad pen just came in, and I have to tell you, it is machined from a single stainless steel and aluminum piece with some crazy coating that only Nomad can obsess about. I've never used such perfectly weighted pen. If you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you'll be interested in my previous desk setups, which I've placed in this playlist. Subscribe to the channel, and as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. This is Z, over and out.